Knowing this near universal pattern helps to assess new brands and existing ones.
What don't marketers know?
Quite a lot. Marketers largely live in an anything-goes world where the latest fashion or fad drives an awful lot of practice.
Segmentation is the recognition you can't serve everyone with equal satisfaction.
This is the Zac Anesbury Show.
Welcome. On today's podcast, we have Simona Bronzi. Now, Simona is the marketing coordinator at RAA. And unfortunately for her, she had the great displeasure of having me as one of her lecturers and course coordinators for a marketing strategy course here at the University of South Australia. But by that point, her marketing career was actually well and truly underway. Now, you're going to hear all sorts of exciting stories about how she first landed her marketing roles, getting her feet wet within industry, and the challenges that she faces by being a young, ambitious person. We talk a lot as well about all the exciting things happening at RAA. We can also discuss kind of really fun things about how you can yourself enter industry as a young graduate and how you need to pace yourself in the short and long term to set yourself up for success. So without further ado, Simona Bronzi. Perfect. And we are live. So welcome, Simona.
Hello.
Yeah, so welcome to the podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to speak to us all. It's probably the last thing you're really looking to do on a Monday evening. First thing of the week. It's been a long and exhausting day. I know it certainly has been for me. So I'm sure it has been for you. So we do very much appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. So I know like quite a lot about you, as you would imagine. I've done my research, but also I've been following you on LinkedIn and seeing some of the developments that you've had over your career for the last sort of 3 or 4 years. But did you want to give the audience a bit of an introduction as to who you are?
Yeah, so Simona, obviously, I work at RAA in the marketing team currently, but it's been a bit of a long and interesting road to get to where I am. When I finished school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I actually started off as a dental assistant when I was 18 and wanted to pursue a healthcare career. So I was like, nursing would be sort of what I was interested in. And then I did 6 months of that and realized that I'm not good with bodily fluids. So I chose a different career path.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I gave it a good crack. It was a bit of fun. So yeah, I actually did a bit of study to do nursing and then backtracked and changed paths. So I guess when I finished up with that job, the opportunity presented itself to move to the Sunshine Coast. I didn't really have a plan when I moved up there. I was sort of like, oh, I might have a gap here, I might travel, I might go to uni. It really wasn't a plan at all. I just got in my car and drove up there.
Really?
Yeah, I have a sister there. She's 10 years older than me. So I had someone that I knew. But yeah, I was just like, why not? I don't have anything else to do.
That's really gutsy to just drive in your car, just go.
Yeah. It was a very long drive. And then, yeah, I didn't really get much relaxation time. A week in, I got a job working for a financial advising firm. I was doing a bit of admin there. So really random again. Did that for 6 months and then got offered a job in marketing. And that sounded pretty cool to me, even though I'd never really thought about working in marketing. And I loved it. It was amazing. I worked for a small digital agency on the Sunshine Coast. Unfortunately, they shut down, so I couldn't stay there. But it was where I fell in love with marketing, really.
They shut down, totally unrelated to your tenure while you were there.
Yes. Unfortunately, the people that owned it split up and then sort of went separate ways. It was a very small company of about 8 people. So yeah, but we did a lot of digital stuff, website development, social media, digital campaigns and stuff like that. So a lot of tourism type things.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So you're growing up and you thought you wanted to be in the health field, and then you got a job in the health field, and then you realized not for me. this is a bit icky. You know, I don't really want my hand to be around people's mouths, which, you know, we've all been to the dentist. It could be bloody, could be a lot of saliva. You're like, nah, not for me. So you get up, you pack your car, you go live with your system. Within a week, you work for a finance place, but then you work in marketing. Was it kind of, I don't know, serendipitous? Like you got offered a role there and you thought, that sounds like fun, or?
Yeah, it was one of my sister's friends who sort of reached out to me. I actually organised my sister's hens night, and my sister's friend was like, you did a really good job of that and you're really good under pressure. I think you should come and work for me. So that's how I got my first marketing job. It was completely off the cuff, just someone that I knew. And I had no idea that it would be such a passion of mine. I just finally, it clicked what I wanted to do. And I never really had a doubt from then on what it was. And I stayed in Queensland for 2 years. There was a boy that I stayed up there for. And I sort of worked a few hospitality jobs here and there, just trying to get another marketing job on the coast. But it was really competitive job market. I didn't have a degree. I'd just worked that one job. So after another year, I sort of realized, well, I've got to go to uni. And I was really missing my family and friends by this point. So I made the decision to move back to Adelaide. And then I just started uni. And I started studying at Flinders University in 2016. And I, for the first time, just really excelled at what I was studying and found what I was passionate about, and worked lots of hospitality jobs in between marketing gigs. I did heaps of volunteering at uni, but we can kind of go back more into that. I feel like I'm doing all the talking.
No, that's all right. I mean, people are not interested in me. Everyone's here to tune in for you.
But yeah, so that was sort of moving back to Adelaide, making the decision to study, moving back home for a little bit, which was like really good starting out at uni. And then I got really involved in student associations at uni and did a lot of marketing within that. So I like built a website and designed a logo and designed all the pub crawl shirts, and that was all self-taught skills, which was just really a great opportunity to learn without the pressure of like being employed and stuffing it up. And then I sort of worked on a couple of things with the university as well, like helping them out with campaigns. They got students quite involved. And then I started working for GPEX, which is a GP training organisation. So I did a marketing sort of internship, but it sort of turned into a bit more than that because I had a bit more experience. And then after I did that, I got my job at RAA without sort of looking for that. They just sort of approached me on LinkedIn and said, hey, are you interested in this role? And it was quite funny because I was at the time doing a topic in professional development for marketing. My lecturer at the time was just banging on about how good LinkedIn was for getting employed. And then I said to her, look, I got employed from LinkedIn, and then I was a poster child from then on from LinkedIn being a good way to market yourself. But it really worked.
Was that professional in development? Was that the course run by Kathy Newen, or was it one at Flinders?
No, it was one at Flinders.
Okay. Yeah, because I just had someone who did a master's by research with us, Chris. So he just walked past my office today. He graduated, which was good to see. And he decided not to pursue, a PhD, and decided industry was more for him, which is totally normal. Like we don't have everyone who does a master's by research continue in academia. We do have a lot of people who then go into industry. And he was saying, he found looking for jobs on places like Seek to be basically null and void. You wouldn't get an interview, you wouldn't get replies often. And as soon as he switched his strategy towards reaching out to basically the decision makers directly on LinkedIn, or going to networking events and speaking to people, they were by far the best ways in order to find, connections. And then he had multiple meetings, multiple coffee arrangements. People were very receptive, but that sort of coldness, I suppose, and that disconnect with Zeke just didn't work for him. And it seems to be exactly the way for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I got my job in 2018, and it was a bit of a whirlwind because I was like, well, I'm halfway through my degree and now I'm going to be working full time. So.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. So you managed to get a full-time job as a marketing coordinator while you were halfway through your degree. That's incredible.
Yeah. And it was like, I'm still grateful to my manager for giving me a shot. Because I had a couple of years in marketing by this point. I forgot to mention I also worked for a small startup company in app development for a bit on the Sunshine Coast. So yeah, I've done like so many different bits and pieces. I honestly forget half of the things I've done because I think by the time I was 21, I had at least 12 jobs, which is crazy. So yeah, I had like a couple of years of experience and I was able to talk about the things that I'd done at uni as well and sort of show that I'm really committed to growing. And my manager saw that and gave me a shot and sort of said, well, as long as you finish your degree, like we're going to have you on board. So then I started my first semester working at RAA. I was doing full-time uni and working 4 days a week. And I would not recommend that to anyone. That was very stressful. And then I dropped down to 2 topics at uni and I went full-time at RAA. So I only just finished in November last year. So 4.5 years to finish a 3-year degree. But
congratulations. So have you had your graduation ceremony yet?
No, I haven't. I did a little backyard graduation ceremony and I think Flinders are doing something in May, but it's not quite confirmed yet.
Okay, so they haven't had any yet?
No.
Oh, wow. I mean, UniSA obviously delayed with everyone else during COVID. I think Adelaide Uni started up some of theirs just down the road, and we've had these almost like smaller hybrid graduations, which I think are going to be the more norm. So like then they were normally like 3 hours long. You'd go there, you'd see the marketing students, but then you'd see like the finance or the commerce students, and 80% of the people walking through the stage you have no connection to. And then the people in the audience have a connection to one of the 400 people who walked past the stage. It just made no sense. And now what they're doing is they're moving towards very short, sort of contained. I think they're only about an hour long. They do the welcome to country, national anthem, all of that sort of stuff. And they do a very, very good job. And then they go pretty much through your cohort of people and they make up, I don't know, about 100 people, and then you get 3 people. So it all fits in with the COVID restrictions and stuff. But it's short, it's snappy, and it's so nice. And I'm really enjoying the ceremonies. And I'm volunteering for a lot more of them now, because if you did it before, you'd have to go and it's like, that's half your day. But now you go and it's like, that's 9:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning till about 10:30. And it's wonderful. So I'm hoping Flinders actually starts getting theirs.
I think they are planning to do that. They sort of sent out something saying register your interest for something.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they're just working through that at the moment.
And it's amazing for your parents and your family to go there and they have that little bit of moment of, that's my daughter or that's my son, or, you always hear like 1 or 2 kids being like, Daddy, Mummy, like from everyone's like, oh, that's adorable. But like, it's just part of it. And I think, I actually found during the graduations, I found it was a little bit for me, but I actually found it a little bit more for my parents who had invested in raising such a terrific and wonderful son.
Yeah.
And it's the same for you. I mean, they must be incredibly proud of you.
Yeah. My parents are very proud. Mum's organised a nice winery lunch to celebrate. So I'm not missing out too much at the moment.
It's awesome. I don't know what that'd be like. I've only just sort of figured out what the Adelaide one's like, because some of the people I work with, their children have started attending some of them. So so you came back to South Australia and you're like, okay, I've fallen in love with marketing, right? This healthcare thing was not for me. I got an opportunity in marketing. This worked pretty good, but it fell through because of other circumstances, and you struggled to get a position because you didn't have a degree. So you decided to go back to uni at that point and get a bachelor's degree. And then you decided to pick Flinders Uni of all of the places, which is totally fine. Explain explain that in terms of, because, with South Australia, we have 3 universities to choose from. You have Adelaide University, which is the historic university. It's been around for a very long time. It's more well ranked on a global scale. I see Flinders as being a very medical based university. And do you live south of Adelaide?
Yeah. I was living at Port Noarlunga at the time.
That makes a lot of sense.
That played a part in it. I think I had a lot of friends that went to Flinders as well. So I was sort of like, even though they weren't studying the same things as me, I was kind of more familiar with it. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And they had an easier adult entry pathway as well.
Okay.
Because I've been out of school for a while, I couldn't use my ATAR. So they were able to, so they were able to sort of let me in because I'd done 2 TAFE certificates. So it was just meant it was an easier way in.
Yeah. And how did you find the program there? So I knew we mentioned earlier, Lara Stocky, who's actually on maternity leave right now. I think she gave birth to a cute little baby boy about 2 days ago now.
Oh, lovely.
So I'm very, very happy for her and hope you're listening, Lara, and relaxing and not doing any work. So she would have been one of your main lecturers for Paul Pear.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah, so both of those are used to be working here at UniSA or at the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, and then found positions there. Did you work with NASA or Nasir?
Yeah. He's taught me as well.
What about Rachel Fuller?
No, I didn't have her.
Okay, so she was here during a period of that time. She now works as a lecturer in which is one of the Melbourne-based unis, La Trobe. So she's now a lecturer there. And NASA or Nasir, I always forget which one is the correct way. And then I hear different people say different versions. And then it just confuses me even further. It's like...
I'm the same. Sorry if you're listening, NASA.
Yeah, he just landed a lecturer role there as well, which is it's a very, very competitive space. I think he had a couple of hundred people apply for that role. So just goes to show, it's positions are getting tighter and the quality of the staff are getting better as well. He's doing very well. He's publishing quite a lot. So they're a good solid team there for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But you also then did a couple of courses here, and I think that's how we had the original connection, right? Yeah.
I will proudly say you're the only lecturer I've ever watched all of the lectures for. So you were very interesting to watch. I'm
going to put that one on my promotion application.
Excellent. No, I think what I liked so much about your teaching style was how real world it was, and I think that's one of the things that I've struggled with at uni is trying to connect theory to real world, because I'd had the real world before going to uni, which not many people have. So I was kind of always coming at it from that doesn't quite fit with what I've done in the real world. And I've sort of struggled with writing such an academic paper and not being able to talk about what actually happens in the actual process that I would go through for marketing something. So that's something that I really enjoyed about your topic, was that we actually got to make a marketing plan for Uber Air. It was.
Oh, nice.
Still waiting for that to launch.
I mean, I think that would have had a slight impact with COVID and trying to fit everyone in this little aircraft, and then obviously the lack of international visitors who could afford to use it. Even people interstate, not moving around that much. But I think it'd definitely be on the horizon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm not teaching anymore. So I'm a research fellow, which means that the entirety of my job is research now. And I used to allocate about 10 to 15% of my workload was teaching this course, and absolutely loved it. Like, marketing sucks, as you would imagine. You read the same thing so many times, and you read really good ones, and it's like, yes, this is amazing. And then you read reports about people who obviously have time pressure or just didn't quite get it or whatever. And that sucks out your soul. But yeah, I kind of miss that aspect. I miss the aspect that you're talking about the most, is where you can teach people something and it actually resonates with them. And well, that's really nice to hear that you yeah, that's really good, because it can sometimes be a bit of a thankless task, because if you get feedback, like you get the student evaluations at the end of the semester, you don't get the middle crowd. You either get a few people who say this is wonderful, and then you have a few people who say that they hate you, and then it ends up in the middle. But we'll see. Okay, so that's amazing that you managed to get a marketing coordinator role during your degree. So they reached out to you. You went through an interview process. What, did they ask you for a CV or anything, or did they know quite a bit about you because of your online profile?
So they did know a lot about me because I had so much info on my LinkedIn already, just detailing what I've done in previous roles. But they did ask me to send through a resume. And then I think it all happened really quickly. I think the next week I had an interview. And I didn't end up getting the job that I interviewed for. I ended up getting another one. So I interviewed for a part-time marketing coordinator in the commercial space at RA, and they found someone else to fill that. But then at the same time, they were recruiting for a full-time coordinator in the innovation space, which was a lot more interesting to me. And I ended up getting that one.
You know, that's the most.
So it all worked out really well.
It's the most hilarious thing. It's like, oh, damn, I missed out on this part-time role, and those bastards offered me a full-time role. How dare they? In a position I found more interesting.
And they were amazing, and the recruiter, she was just so helpful in it. She even gave me feedback on my application, which was so valuable, and sort of helped me show that I was suited for the role, because I wasn't as experienced in writing my resume or cover letter at that point in time. And the RAA even waited for me for 6 weeks. I went overseas for uni. I went to China on a study tour, so they waited 6 weeks for me to start as well. They not only did they give me a shot, they waited for me.
Yeah, far out. I think that's incredible. So during this time, you moved to Queensland and then you moved back again, and it was a little bit careerish wise. Was that a cognitive thing in terms of did you think if I moved to somewhere like Queensland, there might be more opportunities? And then if you moved back to South Australia, I know you missed your friends and your family and stuff. And did you think there'd be opportunities in South Australia? Because quite often we see the opposite, right? So you migrated back to South Australia looking for employment opportunities in this state, where we often find we lose people in that age bracket to the Melbournes and the Sydneys. How can we, apart from your family, or was it just your family? It was
more of a friends and family aspect rather than thinking about, and I was only, what was I was either 19 or 20. I think I was 20 when I moved back, so I was still kind of fumbling my way through the last bit of my teens, and I wasn't really all that focused on my career. As long as I had a job that sort of paid so I could survive, it wasn't really thinking more long term. But I think the motivating factor for doing uni in South Australia was that I could have my parents' support and live at home with mum. And I ended up moving back with her for, I think it was 6 months I lasted, and I went, no, I need independence again. So I ended up moving out again.
Yeah.
20 minutes away, not to the other side of the country, which she was happy about.
Yeah, I bet. I think, you're right. I think you do get to that point in your life where you're like, I kind of need that independence. And, but everyone goes through those periods where, mum and dad come in pretty handy.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So during this, it's a huge change, right? You're moving to other states, then you're coming back, and then, going back to education from industry. But then, did you have any guidance in this area? Have mentors played any role in this decision making? Did you have a sounding board, or did you get any advice to anyone?
I think that there were a few key people at uni that I found really helpful. There was a course advisor, Carolyn, who was just amazing, and I sort of was looped in quite quickly with support networks at Flinders, because they sort of recognised that I'd been out of study for a few years. So the support that they gave at the start was really good. And I sort of fumbled my way through the first year, just doing the intro topics and kind of getting a feel of what uni life was like. And then I think a year in, I joined the Business Student Association, and that was just a group of really cool people that were sort of the same interests and ideas as me, and we're all really passionate about what we were doing. And that was just a really good group of people. And I never felt alone. I made heaps of friends through that. So I think that, that would be the main sort of support that I had in the first couple of years. And then there was a lecturer who taught professional development in marketing, Valerie Keynes, and she was just amazing. And I think I've still got her as a reference on my resume because she was just such a wonderful person and just so encouraging. I remember when I went for my interview at RAA, because she was on, it was like, LinkedIn's the best. And she's like, here's the proof. And then the next day, or even the day that I got the call for the interview, we were doing a 2-hour workshop on interview skills. And so I kind of walked into this and I'm like, I've got an interview. And so the whole class just made this a prep for me and my interview. And it was just amazing. And everyone was so supportive. So I guess I have that whole class to thank for getting my job.
Yep, they all deserve a commission, 1%
Yep.
each for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what about Valerie, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keynes.
Valerie Keynes. What was it about her that sort of stood out to you as, what were the key characteristics about her?
She was she is a very warm and funny person and just such an engaging teacher. Sorry, that is the other person that I didn't watch her lectures online. I went to them because they were more workshop type things. But yeah, just related it so well to real world. And I think that the people that I've come across that are just real and not afraid to talk about their struggles throughout their career as well. I think it makes you feel a bit more human, sort of admitting that they've made mistakes and how they've learned from them.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I'm going to ask you about that later.
Yeah.
We're going to make you more human to everyone, especially those younger people who are thinking, God damn, this girl got a job, like a full-time job halfway through her career, her uni degree, damn her. Are you so within RAA, do they have any of those structures set up, which is where you're currently working, in terms of mentoring, or do you have roles now that you've been there for a couple of years where you feel like you take on some of the junior people who have been there for less time and act as a mentor towards them?
I haven't sort of really been in the position to be a mentor for anyone sort of in the marketing team, but the RAA are doing, I think it came in the year after I started, they're doing graduate programs and internships now. And there's
awesome.
been a couple of people that have come through that have been interested in marketing. So it's been nice to chat to them about their journey and give them a bit of advice. So that's kind of the only time I've gotten the opportunity to be a mentor. But it's really enjoyable and it's something that I'd like to do more of in the future, I think. But in terms of mentorship for myself, there is a person in the business who, I think it was maybe a year ago that I sort of did my performance review and I'd highlighted that having a mentor was something that I'd like. So they teed me up with someone in the business that we catch up. It was a bit more regular before Christmas, but then we sort of got really busy and we haven't caught up for a few months. But we were sort of doing monthly catch-ups and just talking about work things, and she sort of supported me to put myself out there more with projects at RAA and just get a bit more visibility across the business. So that's been really good.
Yeah, so the graduate program for RAA is quite new, is that?
Yeah, it is. I think it's only a couple of years that they've done it.
And it's designed for recently graduates or people who are still in the undergraduate program?
Don't quote me on this because I don't know the exact details, but I think that they do sort of every summer, they do summer internships for 6 weeks. And I think you can do that if you're in your last year of uni or maybe a little bit sooner. And then a lot of people after that then go on to a graduate role. So they haven't had any come up in marketing yet. But there's been quite a few in the digital space and law, because they have in-house counsel, the innovation space. There's a couple of uni grads that they've got working there. HR. Yeah, there's a few people that I've gone to uni with that are now working at RAA.
Okay. And so they don't want a marketing one, or just no one shone enough for them?
it's just very competitive in the marketing
Okay.
department, and roles are pretty hard to come by, especially for graduates without experience. And maybe that's something that they're looking to do a bit more of in the future. But generally, it's a bit harder to get into the marketing team. But I think one good thing about RIA is that people move around the business so much, and they're so supportive of, like, we have this review process every 6 months. We have like a performance review where we get to talk about our career goals and what we want to do, and if we're interested in any other areas of the business, and if they can support you to move to a different area of the business, they will. So it's not to say that you won't start off in one area and then work your way into marketing. There's a few people that have done that.
Okay. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be, it sounds like there is a good possibility if you're a strong candidate, you're coming towards the end of your degree, and if you've had experience, which I think really actually shone in hindsight. I was thinking about it as you were talking about, your journey of getting into RA and then linking with you actually. And I think what would have stood out is that you actually had that real world experience before going there. And you showed a lot of initiative by being on these student associations and self-driven extra learning. You created all of the materials and all of the shirts and everything like that. I think that impresses people. And I think that's something that people should learn from what you've done if they are looking to break into the industry, because maybe they could become one of those rare marketing graduate positions for RAA if they show that same drive. So you're the model to look for, I think, in that sense, for sure.
Thank you.
And they can say, and I've listened to this podcast and I've learned all about it, and that'll impress you being on the panel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The best thing that I ever did was just take every opportunity that I could get. And I didn't really think about whether it was going to be a long-term opportunity and there were things that I did for free, which was still really valuable. I think volunteering is a really good way to get experience. And it's hard. Like I think at one point I had 5 jobs, maybe 4 or 5 jobs. And I think 3 of them were voluntary and 2 of them were paid jobs. So I had 2 coffee shop jobs and I was on the student association, which was effectively a job. I spent a lot of time on that, but because I loved it. I was working on a uni campaign as well, and also doing some extra volunteering, trying to build my portfolio. So it is crazy. I don't suggest that anyone sort of fills their time up as much as I did, because it was very hard. But I think it was really good to take every opportunity that I could.
Yeah, but I think that, it is very hard, and there's that work-life balance thing, but that is that little extra mile that separates good from great. Putting in that extra hours, willing to work for free, especially being younger. Like I'm 32 and I know I look like I'm only 22, it's fine. I'm starting to get a few gray hairs. Very distinguished. But, I still find myself doing things like, this is free. No one's paying me to do this. But even, at UniSA or within the Arabo Bass Institute, like I'm constantly looking to put myself out there and to upskill myself and to work a extra hour a day or something, trying to learn a new skill so I'm more valuable to this place. Or, if there's a certain tool that needs to be upgraded, it might not be my role, but I'll spend a bit of time learning to do it. And it's those, I hope it's recognized here as well, it's those small things that, will not only allow you to get that job, but hopefully progress through it. And I think are you taking a similar mentality during your role now that you've landed it as well?
Yeah, definitely. I have been told that I'm sometimes too ambitious though. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's great, but I am mindful of burnout, and it's happened to me before.
Yeah.
I think, my first semester of working basically full-time and doing full-time uni, I got the best grades that I've ever gotten, but I did not sleep. Like I was not really coping outside of working uni. I was just kind of giving everything that I could to both. And then I think at the end of that, I got really sick, and that was a big wake-up call to me to, yes, it's really good to focus on all of these things and self-improvement, but at the same time, I've got to look after myself. So I think it's a very fine balancing act for me, and I'm sure many other people as well. But yeah, it's been tough.
I think you do mention, and we should probably talk about that, because we may inadvertently influence people, and they might think, Zac told me I needed to work an extra 2 hours a day, and this is totally backed up by everyone. But it is that work-life balance, and like you just spoke to us about, you've had burnouts and stuff like that, and we've all had those real flat periods. And what's your, because that you're prone to it, what is your strategy for recognizing if you're about to hit that point, or do you have any preemptive strategies to make sure you don't burn out?
I think, honestly, I have such a supportive team, and we're also open with each other, especially through COVID. RA has been fantastic in really pushing work-life balance and making sure, there was 4 months last year that we were at home full time because of the scale of the organisation. Non-essential roles just couldn't be in the building with the capacity restrictions. So they were very mindful of, people like not having breaks and overworking. So I think that if anything, it's more like just having that open communication with my team and having an employer that supports work-life balance. And, they offer so much flexibility. I can work from home still. I'm doing half and half in the office and at home, and I really enjoy that. And most people have adopted that method. And yeah, they've invested a lot of resources into training and stuff. Like we've got a wellbeing and resilience program, and we've got like a full working flex program as well. So I think that is just a really good tool for me to tap into, as well as being self-aware of my own stress levels.
Yeah. So you kind of pick up, hey, I'm not coping as well at the moment, or maybe putting a bit too much pressure on yourself, and then I don't know, do you think like, I'm going to go for a walk on the beach, or is there something that you do to unwind?
Yeah, exercise is one thing. I've been a bit slack on that lately. I used to hit F45 every morning at 6 a.m. But then I needed to save some money for a house, and I cancelled my membership, and now I've been a bit slack, admittedly. But yeah, just doing a workout, or I'm trying to focus on a bit of meditation at the moment as well. I think just those little things that give you a bit of breathing space from the hectic day to day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Those two things are very prevalent in my life. And actually, it's funny, the last 2 weeks I've been working too much because we have sponsors in like America or Europe or whatever, and the time zones don't work out nicely. And I haven't been able to exercise as much as I can, as I'd like to. And I haven't felt as good. And I think it's not even a physical feeling good. It then affects my mental ability to work and think properly. And similar to you, like a lot of our job is thinking. And I once told someone I need to exercise, otherwise I'm like a bit crazy or something. I'm just not like a sane human. Like it kind of levels me out a bit. And I find meditation quite useful as well. Like, do you use any apps or anything like that?
I've used Headspace before, and I found that good. But honestly, sometimes I just type in like guided meditation on YouTube. Yeah. And also my watch has like a little breathing reminder. So sometimes, even if it's just 1 minute, sometimes I do that.
Like, leave me alone, Apple. I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah, I think it prompts me when my heart rate's a bit raised, like when I've been doing nothing, and then maybe I like stress out about something that I've read in an email, and then it's like reminder to breathe. And I'm like, leave me alone.
Oh, it's so true. It's like it definitely knows when it's a stressful time. But like, but you can tell, right? And your heart rate is a big predictor of it. Like you can, if you do guided meditation and you're wearing like your Apple Watch or maybe your Samsung Galaxy or whatever, I'm agnostic to this stuff. I use mostly Apple products. And you actually track your heart rate, you can see it decrease. And that's incredible. And something as very simple as mindfulness breathing, like those big like breaths from like the pit of your stomach, it's just, It's just crazy. It's free.
Yeah.
It's free. Who would have thought? Not much.
Somehow it's so hard to remember to do it.
Yeah. So it's something to keep in mind. I think anyone who's listening and they feel a bit overwhelmed, it's, just take that moment to go breathe. And I actually got caught. This was 3 months ago now. I was on the balcony just over here. It was a beautiful day. It was really sunny, but I had a real pressing deadline and I became a little bit overwhelmed with it. So I went out there and I knew that if I spent a bit of time, 5 minutes out there breathing, that I was going to walk back. I was going to be bulletproof and I was able to smash out stuff. And I was standing there and I had my eyes closed and I was doing these deep breathing exercises. And then I woke up. As I woke up, I opened up my eyes and there was like just people staring at me. Like, what are you doing? I explained to them what I was doing and they just laughed and said that's really cool. And I went and it worked. I went back inside the next 3 hours of my day, which is normally, the afternoon hours. I got so much done and I need to get back into the habit of doing that better. But yeah, it's really interesting that you find something very, very similar. How do you on the flip side, if you're having an off day, how do you get yourself in the zone? Like, because, we talked about getting yourself decompressed. How do you get yourself sort of...
I drink a lot of coffee. And even I think sometimes it can be hard to get into the zone working from home. But once I'm in the zone, I can't exit the zone and I probably sit at my desk too much. But I think, caffeine helps. Also just like having a meeting with someone in my team, just talking through stuff with someone. I'm quite an extroverted person, so get all my energy from other people, and found that really challenging working from home 4 months straight with COVID. So I think I just had to be really mindful to keep in touch with people and let them know if I was feeling a bit down. And I think that, we all did a really good job of keeping in touch with each other. But just chatting to someone and even just setting up a meeting not about work. I think that's a challenge working remotely, is all your meetings seem to be about work rather than the water cooler chat.
Oh, and that's what you get when you're actually at the physical location as someone else. It's like, you might talk about whatever project you're working on or piece of research or campaign or whatever, but then it's like, that water cooler gossip type stuff and how was your weekend? As annoying as that question is, like, boy, do you miss it when you're like, shut away from the rest of the world. It's really good that you work with a supportive group of people who are like that. It's nice to know RAA has a bit of a culture like that.
It's very good.
Yeah. So how big is how big's RAA in terms of employees? Whether you know or not, I'm not sure.
There's over 1,000.
That's
and it
huge.
keeps growing. We've outgrown our head office at Marlin, so it's good that people are sort of working from home and in the building, because we honestly just ran out of space. But my team, so my actual team is just me and my manager. And then we've got a wider team, and honestly, I'd have to count, probably my wider team's probably about 20 people. There's a couple on maternity leave at any given time. It just seems to be a revolving door. People going on leave and coming back. And then we've sort of got like a wider membership marketing team as well, which are technically in a separate department, but we do a lot of work together, and that's probably another 10 people. And then we've got like the graphic design team and the web team, and everyone's sort of, they're huge teams. But I guess the actual marketing team is probably like 20 to 30 people.
Okay.
And then we work quite closely with our agency as well.
Yeah. So is your manager, what's their title?
So she's the marketing manager, and she works 4 days a week. And I'm full-time, and we've got I can't even remember how many products we have, because we always get new ones in, but I think we're working on about 7 at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
and because I grew up in South Australia, and it sounds like you did as well before you moved to Queensland. Yeah. And to me, South Australia and RAA are like almost very synonymous, because it is purely a South Australian thing, isn't it? Like there's a different version of that in Victoria. And I didn't even realize that until we had a presenter at the Institute who worked for them. What is the Victorian version called?
RACV.
Yeah, that's it. They came and they gave a presentation about the campaign that they were working on over there.
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes being like, I don't get this. And then they're like, they must have seen everyone else in the room didn't get it as well. And they're like, we're basically the Victorian RAA. Boom, light bulb.
Yeah.
So growing up here, I'm just thinking RAA and then roadside assistance. So my car, my flat battery, I can't tell you the amount of times RAA has changed my flat battery for me. Even things like, flat tires or whatever, they've helped me out a bunch. I am quite a fan because I've used them quite a lot. And my dad's been a member for like 30 or 40 years or something crazy like that. He's 77, so that makes it a little bit easier. But over my lifetime, I've seen the absolute growth of it to, there's physical stores where you sell actual products within them. And a lot of them are like car related or travel related. But then you have insurance, and it's not just insurance related to cars. It's insurance related to travel. It's insurance related to housing as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have, what other stuff are you selling at the moment? It's exploded. And I think that's the strength of the brand, where you can translate that to another category and that people are like, this is a South Australian brand. I have mental associations with it, and it makes sense that they're offering this as well. Yeah, you probably know it slightly a little bit better than me.
So when I started at RAA, they were in the beginning stages of rebranding, and they launched that rebrand in 2019. And with that rebrand came a whole new strategy for RAA as well, and that strategy has been amazing to be part of. So all of our products and services fit into motor, home or travel. So motor is obviously very established. We've got road service and car insurance and driving lessons and vehicle inspections and all that jazz. Is probably things that I'm forgetting because I haven't worked on that portfolio. But everyone sort of knows that side of it. Travel is the other one that they've got, and obviously that took a bit of a backseat with COVID. But before COVID hit, that was absolutely booming. And they're still doing really well with like South Australian travel. They've never been busier for that, so that's really good. And then home is sort of the space that people are not as familiar with, and a lot of the products that I work on sort of fall into that home category. So a few of them at the moment, we've got Trade Assist, which is basically connecting you with a tradie that we've sort of vetted and made sure that they're trustworthy. So we've got a platform that we can, set you up with a tradie.
Wow, I had no idea that worked. Wow,
yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
So if you need a tradie.
We always need tradies.
Yeah.
I need a plumber soon, actually.
Well, you know where to find them. And our huge one at the moment is solar and battery storage for houses.
Okay.
So we launched that a year ago, and it's just really taken off. So that's probably the biggest thing that I'm working on at the moment. What else do we have? I've honestly got to think about it.
Yeah, so that's like Tesla batteries, or a different version of a home storage battery?
We don't sell Tesla, but there are other ones. I couldn't name all of the products off by heart because there are quite a few of them. But yeah, it basically stores the energy from your solar panels so you can use it later on. Yeah.
I've noticed that.
Which is really cool.
Because it's becoming more economical to put solar panels on your house. I know someone recently who's just installed and this is quite a large system. It's a 16.9 kilowatt system. Mm-hmm. And so their electricity bill was $1,200 to $1,300 a quarter, which I thought was, they're a family. Mine's nowhere near that. And so it just blew my mind that they spent that much money on electricity.
Yeah.
But this solar system will pay off itself they're spending about 10 grand on it. In about 2.5 years, it's going to pay for itself. And it's got a 25-year warranty. So it just goes to show, my dad first put a solar system on his house 15 years ago, and it was going to take 9 years to pay itself off. And now it's down to about 2.5 years. So the technology is getting better, the price is coming down. And I think that's the way in which renewable energies will eventually become more prevalent, which we're seeing at the moment is via that sort of stuff. Sure. So you're a part of the solar panel as well, or just the batteries?
Yeah, panels and batteries.
Okay. Panels and batteries. So that's part of the home.
Yeah, so they're the sort of couple of products that we're working on in the home space at the moment. And then there's a lot of focus around future mobility. So what does the next 10 years look like in terms of car ownership and how we move around the city? I think it's been really interesting seeing the impact that COVID's had on like sharing transport options. Like a lot of people aren't catching public transport because they're worried about being around people, or the e-scooters, like they're picking up popularity now, but for a bit there people were worried about like germs and things like that. So I think before COVID happened, we were sort of ramping up to explore these future mobility scenarios, and then sort of paused for a little bit, but now we're sort of opening back up. So yeah, we're partnered with Beam e-scooters. We did like a fringe partnership with them, and just doing a lot of like safety education around e-scooters. We have got a car sharing platform, which you can just go pick up a car and use it for an hour or a day, and then drop it back. So that's really cool. If you need to like go get a ute or something to move some furniture, or just need it for a day trip. We've got car subscription, which is a bit more long term, so you can have a car for a few months and it includes everything, so you don't have to like worry about your rental and your insurance and all the maintenance and stuff. It's all included. So it's just about testing these products to see whether they fit our members' needs and sort of trying to predict their future needs, because if we end up being more densely populated, you can't get parks in the city as it is. How does that look? Are people going to own cars? Like, we don't know that, but it's about exploring what the future might look like.
Yeah, is the future of some of the living almost like a Bowden suburb where it's mostly high-rise apartments with cafes and everything, and street level parking is far in between. Where it's not like your traditional older suburb like St. Peter's, where the streets are 30 meters wide and there's just a lot of land. There's a lot of land there. It'd be interesting to see what actually happens. I think short term we're seeing people moving away from apartments and away from capital cities towards regional areas. And I suppose for RAA, that's like, how does that affect our insurance in terms of the number of kilometers people are driving, likeliness of getting into accidents and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I have noticed a lot of buses driving around with no one in them. And apparently the used car market's just insane at the moment. And even
I don't think they can get new cars in from overseas. I think the dealerships are really struggling to get any cars. Yeah.
So the RAA approved mechanics, they would be having a field day with, getting the secondhand cars up to scratch, especially the older ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. So how does the using a car for an hour work? Because I don't have a ute. I have a little Volkswagen Polo. And if I ever need to move furniture, I have to ring up someone who has one. And then my brother-in-law who had one has now sold it. So the next time I need to move, how am I going to do this?
Yeah, so the brand that we partner with is FlexiCar, and you download the app, open it, and it shows you where the car's located, and you can do it all through your app.
How do I spell this?
FlexiCar, so it's
FlexiCar.
FlexiCar.
FlexiCar, and you can choose the type of vehicle to be like, all right, there's a ute, and it's 3.2 k's away from you, and how do I get into it?
You unlock it with the app.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. I sound like an old man right now, don't I? It's like, mate, it's all on your phone. Who would have thought?
Yeah. No, it's very cool. I think the only other thing like it in the market in South Australia was GoGet, and they've recently exited the market. So this is sort of the replacement for that, if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I think one of the guys that I work with, when he was living in the city and he didn't need a car, he now lives in Grange, so a car's a must for him. He was using that service quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that was really ahead of the time that we thought about shared transport in that sense. That's for sure. So you work, so your team is primarily you and your marketing manager, but you work in a larger team that's about 20 people. So what is your, so you must work quite closely by the sounds of it with new product development, and is there like a research, consumer insights sort of section of REA, and is there like a media scheduling component, or are you part of media and advertising? Like how do all the pockets fit together?
So our media scheduling happens through our agency. So basically, sort of we go through the marketing planning process. I guess even before that, like when we're looking at these new products, we've got an innovation team who kind of look at, okay, what ideas do we have? And they kind of come up with all these scenarios, and then it goes sort of to a board who assess projects and give them approval for funding and things like that. And then it goes to market development team who sort of work on actually making it a product so that we can launch. And then after all of that happens, then they come to us and go, well, we need to sell this product, so help us sell it. And that's where my team comes in, and we start the marketing process and sort of map out a year plan as kind of a starting point, but we know it never will stay what we've planned because of the nature of the products that we work on. It's like every week we review, okay, what are we doing, what's working, what's not, what do we need to change? But it's good just to kind of have a baseline strategy of, okay, what have we done in the past for similar types of products? I guess that's kind of the starting point. And then there are so many teams that we work with. So we've got the digital team who help us get the website and all that content sorted. We have our in-house design team who can do some design work for us. We have a direct marketing team who do all of our email marketing and mail campaigns. We've got our SA Motor team, who are a really valuable internal resource for us. We've got the whole magazine, and they've got a huge readership following that we can go out to. And then we've got our marketing agency who handle all of our media, so like Google AdWords and social media, and all of our out of home. And the smaller products don't really get TVC airtime, but they sort of do all that. And for the bigger products, they work on our TVCs and all the like sponsorships, and it's massive. And it's really good to have an agency because, you know, they're kind of the experts in certain things. And I guess that is kind of a challenge of working for such a big organization and having so much like varied work and products that you work on. Is you kind of have to know a bit about everything, but you can't really be an expert in any one thing because you've got to rely on experts to do what they're best at. And then we also have a market research team who we tap into as well. So yeah, it's huge. It's amazing how everyone kind of works together.
Yeah, it sounds like it's fairly well oiled, which is good. So you're almost like you're basically a link in the chain between all of the stuff that's happening, all the exciting things that are happening internally, and they come to you for obvious reasons, and then you then need to brief like the agency about, you know, this is where we're at, and their role is a full service agency in terms of they do the ad creative and then the media scheduling as well. Yeah.
So they can do everything for us, which is really good.
Do they handle like your I don't know what you'd call like an owned media? Do they handle all your social pages and everything like that?
So we do have an in-house social team who kind of oversee it, but they have access to our social media pages to do sponsored content. So usually I'll just whip up an ad and kind of go, here, can we upload it? That's pretty easy. But yeah, the in-house social media team sort of manage the more organic stuff that we have up, and also managing all the messages and comments that come in as well.
Yeah. So if I went on, say, Twitter and I said, hey, RAA, you know, great job, you know, fixing my battery that was dead, or great recommendation on the plumber that I'm going to need soon, or, you know, thanks for hooking me up with FlexiCar. Who does that go to? Does that go to you or one of your team, or?
No, well, sometimes it comes to me, but there is, we've got like a member support team who have a platform that all of the comments and messages feed into, and then they sort of can either reply if it's something they can answer really quickly, or they'll refer it to someone who can help. So if it's one of the products that I work on, it will get sent through to me and I'll help with an answer.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So how do you know, like, say you have 2 campaigns, or say you have just one campaign and it does involve TVC. And what's the campaign I've seen of yours recently? The one that sticks in my head is you're kind of like at Elder Park and they have Adelaide Oval in the background, and it's like the biggest guy you've seen with a bald head, and they call him Tiny or something like that.
Oh, I think that's one of the insurance ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's flipping a Barbie or whatever, and then he starts dancing. It's quite a creative ad. How do you determine what effect that is having? Like, how do you attribute, like, what are you trying to do with it? You're trying to build mental structures, or are you trying to, how do you determine how effective that's actually been?
Well, I guess I haven't really worked on many TVC campaigns, so I'm probably not as close to it as, say, the insurance team that have a lot of stuff out in the market. But from what I've been sort of involved in, they give us sort of post-campaign reports to let us know how things are performing. But I guess sort of in any advertising that we do as RIA, there's an element that's brand building, there's an element that's awareness, and there's an element that's wanting to convert sales. So I guess TV sort of falls into that brand building because people see it as an RIA ad. But then if it's like specific products, then it also helps contribute to the awareness and conversion as well. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, definitely. I think so, for sure. So we've spoken quite a bit about RIA at the moment. But you've also had other parts of like your career beforehand. What do you think has been one of the biggest challenges that you've had? So I told you that I was going to bring this up. Like, is there anything that you've looked in hindsight, you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done this, or, in hindsight, I should have done it a different way? Like, is there something you can point to? You're like, and then what have you learned from it? Like, how have you moved forward from that?
That's a good question. I think, and this isn't specific to marketing, but it's something that I've learned throughout my working life. I've been working since I was 14 in hospital, and then obviously after school getting into the more corporate side of things. But I guess just how I sort of react to things. I think I'm a very sensitive person, and I have had to learn to form a bit of a thicker skin and learn what is worth worrying about and what to let go. I think that's been a personal challenge for me, but something I've definitely managed to work on really well throughout my career, and that probably comes with age as well. And I think sort of a work challenge is just having to always be switched on. I think that working in marketing or any sort of corporate job can be really mentally time consuming, and it can be hard to, and we talked about the work-life balance thing as well, but I think just thinking all the time is a big challenge, and just having to keep on top of so many different things.
Yeah, sort of managing those multiple priorities at the same time. Yeah. And how do you sort of keep like a to-do list, or how do you keep track of your
I've got
day?
multiple to-do lists. I use Trello. Trello is a really good one for organising stuff. I have a board for work, and I used to have a board for uni when I was studying, and I have a board for my house, and for my wedding planning. Like, everything that needs organising has a Trello board, and it also has a spreadsheet. And then I've also got like a Word document to-do list, and I'll also do a written to-do list daily to make sure it's not too overwhelming, or like break it down into like 5 things to start with.
5 things I'm going to do today.
Yeah.
Are they? Yeah. Is it the achievable things? Because some of them can be like, this is like a 3-week to-do thing, and I don't know. I don't know about you.
I guess that's my Trello board is like longer term stuff, and then my Word documents kind of everything that's on the go, and then my written one will be, okay, these are the things I really need to get done right now. Yeah. And then once I've got them done, I can reassess how much time I've got left.
So you're kind of filtering them from big to small scale, and long term to today. I think that's not so bad because to-do list can be frustrating when you just want to tick it off, but you know it's another week of work, but you know that in order to get that work done, you need to do, say if it's writing a paper or whatever, you need to write 2 paragraphs or finish off this section or something. Okay, that
and I guess that's actually another challenge is working with so many different people and teams often means that I want to cross things off, but they might be stuck at another department or at another bit in the process that I don't have control over in that point in time. So I guess just another one is managing my own personal expectations of myself. I am very self-critical. I think that we're our own worst critics sometimes. And I think, over time I've had to dial that down a bit because it's just not sustainable.
Yeah, I think so. Especially, I used to work with a guy, he'll be on the podcast in a few months, Armando Corsi. So he's an Italian man. He's an Australian citizen now as well. But, his big thing he keeps trying to tell me is it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm like, that's very true. And I think I've kind of come up with my own hybrid, and I don't know if it's working yet or not, which is it's a series of sprints. And it's kind of like interval training. So, I'm not running a marathon because I'm not a long distance runner, and I'm definitely not a sprinter because I'm not super fast, but I can go further and quicker than other people if I sprint and then break and then sprint and then break. And I'll have those bigger weeks that are really quite intense, and then I'll let myself off a little bit of time and not feel guilty about it because I know I worked late. So I was on campus till about 11:30 last week. And then the next morning I just slept in and didn't arrive till 11 a.m. And I didn't feel guilty in one iota because I was worked an extra 5 hours the night before. And so I'm like, well, I'm kind of 2 hours under today. So I'm kind of still up 5. And so I kind of see it as that sprint, break. I don't know. Do you do something similar?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think it's taken me a while to get to that point because before I was just on full sprint mode 24/7. But as I've gotten older, I don't have as much energy anymore. I think I hit 25 and I'm 25 now, but I think the last year I've really noticed it. I just have to have that downtime. But I think there's definitely some weeks that I'm super in the zone and really productive, and then there's other weeks I'm just like get me to Friday, I'm just crawling there. And I guess it just comes back down to okay, am I taking time out for myself and just having that self-worth? But I think we're human, we can't be productive 24/7. It's just not how we're built.
Yeah. I read the other day that Albert Einstein took 3 45-minute walks every day. Yeah. Right. For some reason, I was researching him, part of some secret project I'm working on that no one else knows besides me. I literally haven't told anyone. It's super secret. No one I know works with knows about this. Now I'm going to get all sorts of questions being Zac, what's this super secret project? But yes, I was looking at all sorts of people in that area. But I thought that was quite interesting. And I think around Princeton or something, there was a specific route he used to go through. He's an interesting man. What were we talking about? I'm obviously getting a little bit tired.
Being human and can't be a productive 24/7.
Oh, there you go. It's been a long week already, and it's only Monday, and can't be productive 24/7. But you are right. You do need to have that time, and that exercise we're talking about earlier, that meditation we're talking about earlier, and I think just having something else to do in your life besides this. You mentioned you were wedding planning.
I'm not super invested in that right now because I'm also building a house, so that's taking up most of the outside of work time at the moment. And we've run out of money at the moment, so we're just gonna have to get through the house first.
How on earth are you managing those two just ginormous, just huge scale projects at once? I know a girl who's planning a wedding, and that seems to be quite hard, and
Yeah.
I know other people who've built houses and they find it's very stressful, and compounding the two doesn't seem joyful.
Yeah, there hasn't been much wedding planning happening. I got engaged in June last year, and for a month we were like super excited wedding planning, and then in July last year we got our land. Well, we had a 9-month settlement on our land, so it only actually just settled, but we sort of put our deposit down and started that process on our land. So then we were kind of like, oh, well, that's a better use of money at the moment. And the reason that we ended up buying a house last year was because we were going to go to Europe for 2 months last year, and then that didn't happen. So we had some money to put into a house.
Yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of people at the moment. House prices are
still a bit sad that I probably won't get to do that big 2-month Europe trip. I think it was kind of the last bit, like a last opportunity we kind of had to do, like such a big trip, almost like our own little gap year. But that's okay. We'll get there one day.
Yeah, I think so. Europe's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It'll be there for a while. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. So last year was huge. Finished uni, got engaged, building a house.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal year. Now, I don't know how this year is possibly going to compare.
I'm happy to chill out this year, to be honest. That's that whole can't do everything all the time. But wedding planning's definitely had to take a back seat.
Yeah. Have you thought about because your sister's in Queensland still?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That would make all of my family's in South Australia, but that would make me very nervous about setting a date for a wedding in terms of if there's somehow some lockdown again.
Yes. Well, my partner's family are all interstate as well, apart from his parents. They're sort of all scattered around the place, and his dad is from the Netherlands. So his entire dad's side of the family is in the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. So we probably will have to just go over there and have a separate celebration anyway, because his dad's one of 9.
Wow.
And there's lots of relatives over there that I haven't met yet.
Yeah.
So I guess it's never been possible for us to have everyone there. So we're kind of at the moment planning a very small wedding.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite weddings I've ever been to are those small, really intimate ones, though. So, that sounds amazing. So, how do you keep up to date with all the stuff that's happening in the industry? Like, is there certain websites, or do you read certain books, or how do you keep up to date with the latest trends in marketing, or where's your information coming from?
I think I've had a lot of really good opportunities through work to attend virtual conferences. So since COVID, that's been, instead of flying to Sydney for Mumbrella, we've been able to watch Mumbrella from our conference room, which is awesome because it's given us sort of the whole team the opportunity to be exposed to that, whereas it might have just been a few people before because of expenses of going to Sydney. Mm-hmm. And we did a work from home masterclass right when COVID started. They wanted to keep us engaged, so they enrolled the whole marketing team in a Mark Ritson work from home masterclass, which was really cool. I'm subscribed to sort of Mumbrella, like marketing journals and things like that. Our agency also have quite a few sessions that we can drop in on if we're interested. They had one on Friday about cookies, which was quite topical, how privacy laws are changing. So they tend to keep us pretty up to date on things as well. And just talking to people on my team, just finding out what's kind of going on. I scroll probably too much on social media and LinkedIn, and I read things there.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is actually quite useful because people share things either that they've done, or they share things that they think will be useful for everyone else. So it's kind of like if you follow people or are connected with people who are in similar fields or like-minded, whatever, they're kind of like your personal content curators.
Yeah.
I see that, like I mentioned before, like you work with one of my friends, Travis Murphy, and Trav is a real big wine buff, and so he's constantly looking at deals, and he knows what's very good value. He knows what all the good regions are, and I've learned so much from him, and I still know very little in wine compared to him. But he'll always be sending through messages being like, oh, did you want to go halves on a case of this wine? And it's normally $60, but, we can get it for 20 a bottle and we'll split shipping. And it's amazing because I know Trav has very good taste in wine and I don't then have to do the bulk legwork for it. So I kind of see Trav in some way as my wine personal curator. You have the same service with LinkedIn and
exactly.
It's quite cool. Even Twitter, I find, Twitter could be a bit of a dodgy place where people are not very nice people and everything like that. But I think in some sense, and once again, if you're not following, especially political things, and you're following industry-based stuff about marketing, it can be a rich source of information.
Mm-hmm. I don't actually have Twitter.
Oh, really?
I have to admit. It's the one social media platform I've just never, I probably have a profile that I've set up years ago and never used. The one I've just never really quite gotten onto.
Yeah. It depends on what you want to use it for. It's definitely not as professional as LinkedIn. That's for sure. But yeah, and so Mumbrella I think is quite useful as well. I see a little bit of overlap with some of the other places do you go to Ad Age or Adweek and B&T and stuff like that?
Yeah, I get a few things through. Or if someone in my team comes across something that's interesting, they'll flick it through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to actually invest a bit more time in upskilling. Now that I've finished uni, I think there's a bit more capacity for me to do something outside of work, but I might make that a focus for next year. Doing some study to do with my profession, just have a little break for a bit.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to learn. Of course, there's these online conferences happening instead, which is, like you said, good in one sense, more people from your team. Sucks in another sense because you don't get the gala dinners at the end of it where it's a really, really fun night. And also, networking is never the same. And when you're in person, it's really nice to actually be around other humans. But I think one of the things that I learned just then was that your agency has actually been quite proactive in terms of bringing you in and teaching you about the latest things that's affecting them because it affects you as well, like cookies and privacy laws and stuff like that. If they, I suppose, from their perspective, if they didn't produce these for you, you might ask for things that are impossible. Yeah, that's really, really cool. Is this something that your team, how often do you have these and how useful would you find them?
So sort of pre-COVID, we did a lot more kind of in-person things, and then it honestly, I keep waiting to get a quiet time because when COVID hit, we're like, oh, we're not going to be that busy because marketing's not that essential. It is, but it's not if things are really drastic, the things the RA need to keep operational, like insurance claims and things like that, and helping people with that. So we're like, well, maybe we'll have a bit of quiet time where we can just focus on optimizing things, but it just never happened. So we were a bit deprived of in-person networking and things last year, but we had the online courses to make up for it. And I noticed there were heaps of webinars, and I'm part of Business Chicks, so they have pretty cool webinars as well that I can watch, and I find them really useful for professional development as well, and just things like how to overcome imposter syndrome and things like that. That's something I definitely struggle with. But yeah, in terms of our agency doing these Friday night sessions, I think they do them every Friday amongst their team. It's kind of a nice way to debrief, talk about anything that's topical, and then occasionally they'll invite us along if it's something relevant to us. So yeah, it's really cool.
And is it fairly informal, like a discussion, or is it more of a presentation?
No, it's just kind of a sit down with some cheese and wine and a bit of a panel, and everyone's kind of talking about things. That's where I thrive. I love networking events.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see that they're picking back up again.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. And we are quite fortunate being in South Australia that, we can go to a sports game and have 40,000 people in an arena.
Yeah.
Because I hear about the arenas being in the US, they're basically COVID drives where you line up with thousands of other people waiting for your vaccine.
Yeah, I know. It's sort of a bit surreal being in Australia and South Australia when you're watching what's going on.
Yeah, we are super fortunate. You touched on networking and there's so much value in meeting people and that face to a name and having that conversation and you talk about professional things, but you can also get to know them as an actual person as well.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to people about networking events? Like you mentioned Business Chicks as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard quite good things about that. Naturally have not attended.
Men are welcome though.
Are they? I had no idea.
Yeah. Like to the breakfast and things like that. There's men there.
I had no idea. Business dudes or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's great. And so what advice would you have? Because these events can be quite scary and they can be quite intimidating, especially like I remember going to some of these events when I was still in uni, and you'd be seeing these people who were, the marketing directors of this company or the marketing director or marketing manager of this one, or just everyone seems so intimidating. What would your advice be about how to approach people? And that's probably pretty useful.
I think I've always been quite comfortable approaching people, which isn't the norm. So I recognize that might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I guess something that might help someone who hasn't been to a networking event before is like getting a friend along, just so you have someone there with you, and then at least you don't feel so alone. But also just like going up and talking to someone, just saying hello, because chances are they also feel the same, even if they are someone who is a director of a company or whatever. That everyone feels a bit anxious at these things, and I think it's just about recognizing that they still are people, and you don't need to put them on some pedestal as someone that you can't talk to. I've always found anyone that I've talked to really welcoming, and I've never felt that someone's like position has been intimidating towards me or affected the way that they treat me.
And what sort of stuff would you recommend that they talk about?
I usually just start with, hey, going, what's your name?
Yeah.
Or like, talk about the event that you're at, or if you just had food, talk about the food, or just a sort of icebreaker conversation starter, and then ask them a bit about what they're doing, and then they talk to you about what you're doing, and it kind of just seems to flow from there after the initial sort of awkwardness of starting the conversation. But that's been my experience, and I do find it quite easy to talk to people that I don't know.
Yeah, and if you were a young, say, graduate and you were, maybe finishing uni in about 6 months' time, do you think that it's a good opportunity at that point to, I don't even know what the norms are these days, do people use business cards anymore, or is it just, I'll find you on like LinkedIn, as we were talking about earlier? And then putting yourself out there to be like, I'm going to finish in 6 months' time, I'm looking for a potential role. Do you have anything like how on earth do you breach that conversation?
LinkedIn is definitely a good thing. There's been a few people, I think my early years of uni, I just went to, I don't know what other unis do, but Flinders had networking events for students, and they had like industry speakers come along. And even like the student association ran like a first year mixer where they'd have people that have graduated talking about their career journeys, and that's kind of a really nice way to ease into it, is just doing things through uni. And I remember there was one that I went to, I can't even remember what it was about, but actually ended up speaking to someone about how I was looking for a role, and they had kind of hinted that they had something full-time coming up, and that I should apply for it. And at that point in time, I think I was still in my first year or semester, so I was kind of like, nah. But I probably could have explored that opportunity a bit more. So I think it's surprising how open people are to talking to uni students about these things. And I think especially if they're coming along to uni to talk to people, they want you to talk to them about opportunities.
Yeah, actually, when you put yourself in their shoes, they're not just attending for something to do. These people are quite busy and they have lives, and they'd much prefer to be with, their family or kids or friends or hobbies or whatever. and they probably have a reason that they're there, and it is to speak to you. So that's probably a good mindset of going in there to be like, this person's will have an intimidating title, and they're like 20 years older than me, and I'm just some like pimpled uni student who what have I got to offer? To be like, actually they're kind of also there for me, and that's probably a good mindset to go in there. Obviously not an arrogant way, but to be like, they don't care if I introduce myself, because they're looking for a bright student to take on board, because they potentially have a role, or they know of roles that are coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. That's a really good way of putting it. It's a really good way of putting it, for sure. So you also talked about like reading academic journals. Is that something that you're still doing?
That was more for uni, but
okay.
I actually find them interesting.
Yeah. Some of the ones.
I think consumer behaviour really interests me. And I've always had a bit of an interest in psychology, and I wanted to combine psychology and marketing, but I didn't like the idea of doing so many extra years of uni to get a psych degree as well. But I think that I like reading about those sorts of things. And I probably don't allocate enough time to doing it. But when I was at uni, I would come across a few more things like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because, I mean, I'm an academic, and I find some of the articles quite useless, if I'm honest with you. Like, they'll look at such nuanced things that, like, there was a piece of research about how the temperature in a room changed, like, the satisfaction scores that people were giving, and it's like, oh cool, because that's something I can control if I'm the brand manager of Coca-Cola. Like, and then if they do like a big brand tracker of like 1,000 people, what are they going to ask you? Like, can you estimate the temperature of your room, and then weight that by the scores that they're given? Like, in terms of priorities of things, it's like, that's not very important.
I think one that it's been a while since I've read anything, but Gartner's a really good resource. I don't know if it's specifically academic, but it's more along that more evidence-based sort of articles rather than opinion piece. I think it's important to have a bit of both. Yeah. Especially in the age of social media, where fake news spreads pretty quickly. We just see the fairy bread thing, the cancel fairy bread.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Oh, so that was and I haven't looked into it. I just saw it on social media, but basically, I think some media interns at a newspaper were tasked with creating a fake story, or someone was tasked with creating a fake story for newspapers to pick up and run, and it was a petition to cancel fairy bread. And it was completely fake, and it was just to illustrate how things can be thrown out of context with the media. And
actually, I think I did read that.
Can travel. Yeah,
and I saw the comments of it, and it was just like people arguing, and that people were taking sides on this thing. Yeah, and it was like,
that wasn't even a thing.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a thing.
Yeah,
it just makes you think, like, because literally, like, and that's kind of like the pros and cons of open networks. It's like everyone has a voice, but you have to like filter out the voices, I suppose, like the credible ones and the not so credible ones. That's for sure. And that's why I think like peer-reviewed journals and those scientific journals are supposed to be the safe haven of this knowledge. And then, I think that's one thing that the Institute tries to do, which is like, we don't promote anything that we don't have like an abundance of evidence to show that this is the case. And, I've been to conferences and I've spoken to different sponsors, and I've gone to different universities, a number of different universities throughout the world, and presented, and I've never gotten even the slightest bit close to the level of feedback and like not criticism, but like skepticism that you get from your own colleagues here. Like, it is robustly insane. Like everything that you put forward, it's like, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Double check this. This person said that. How do you account for this? And it's like, oh my God. Like, I had a 30-minute presentation that went for 2 hours the other day, because it was just that much scrutiny on everything I was saying. But you don't get that with a lot of things these days. And I think, definitely. And it sort of makes you become skeptical of people's claims. And we have these cool devices that sit in our pocket, and we can check things pretty quickly. I don't know if you remember, like when I was a teenager, when was that? Like 16 years ago, and these phones were crap and there was like no internet and it would cost you a fortune for a megabyte of data. And one of your friends would come out with some absolute load of rubbish and you'd be like, I don't think that's true, but there's no way I can disprove you. And now you literally can. You can just be like, no, I don't think what you're saying is true. Like, I'll just give that a quick Google. And then you can find a credible source and be like, yeah, no, you're a little bit off there, or you're over exaggerating to prove your point. Yeah. And in terms of a marketing situation, I suppose, how does that relate to what you're doing? So I suppose that provides you with evidence about what metrics are important to focus on to grow your brands and everything like that.
Yeah, I think I think before my time at RAA, I was working for small companies and often in marketing roles where I was kind of doing basically everything. I didn't have all these experts to tap into, didn't have an agency to guide me as well. And I think the benefit of being so large scale is having access to like a market research team that can show what our members actually think, and also just like having year-on-year performance metrics and having different campaigns to compare things to. And I think something that I've really improved and enjoyed about working for RAA is just making more data-driven decisions. And that's something that I definitely want to learn a bit more about, is because naturally I'm not a numbers person. I've always shied away from maths. I don't know how I passed quant methods at uni. It's a miracle. I honestly cried when I saw that I passed, like I just got a pass. Because, that's just not where my skills lie. But I think having it put into a way that makes sense for my role and makes sense for marketing is really good, and it makes sense. So I would like to work on those skills a bit more and learn a bit more about that.
Yeah, you're talking about making sort of data-based or data-driven decisions and making sure that you're focusing on sort of evidence-based stuff. How does that sort of research shape everything that you're doing, or through your role anyway?
I guess there's that part of it, but then I guess it's also hard sometimes when we work on these new products, because often we don't have a benchmark to go from. Sometimes it is just a completely new product and we can go, well, this company overseas has done something similar, this might work, but a lot of it's just like test and learn and just constantly reviewing what we're doing. But that's still making data-driven decisions, because we're going, okay, we did this campaign, what were the results? Should we try it again and like slightly tweak it and see what result we get? Should we target it towards different people this time? Should we do different ad sets for different demographics? Like it's just about testing it out at the start. And then once you've got that baseline to go from with our more established products, then we can go, well, we know this channel really works for this product and this demographic, and these are the people that use the service most, and we get that from market research and from previous year's data. And we've got the market research team who can do like NPS surveys to make sure that we're meeting members' expectations. I say members instead of customers because, they're not customers RAA, they're members. We have a huge membership base. I think it's over 750,000 people in FA.
Wow. It's a huge penetration into the market.
Yeah, it's massive. And it's awesome because we've got such a big platform to go to. So, that was kind of a long-winded explanation.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think in terms of like, because you operate in so many different areas, like you had home and driving and everything like that. And each one of those has a different competitive set, as in like your category changes a lot. Like even within insurance, like the number of people who have travel insurance versus car insurance versus house insurance versus, needing roadside assistance or, travel adapters or something like that, or solar panels. Like they're all such different categories and they all have such different, basically the category buyers do differ. And then you have different competitors. That's quite a lot to take on.
Yeah, and we do competitor reviews, and our agency helps out with that as well. But yeah, we do look at what other people in the market are doing. I think, yeah, a massive benefit that we have is just the level of awareness that we have of RAA and our reputation. So it's already a good starting point for launching things.
Yeah, you have a very well-established parent brand within your market. Like you said, you have 750,000 people who are members. And what's the South Australian population? It's not huge.
No, I think, I couldn't tell you the figures, but we've got a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just people who not only just have sort of any sort of mental structure about your brand. So I think the big challenge for you would actually be like getting people to think of you for different reasons beyond like me, someone who grew up in South Australia who think roadside assist primarily. And then actually I think my car insurance is with you as well, actually.
Yeah.
But, I only learnt that you have other services like FlexiCar and stuff like that from the podcast. So, yeah, I think that's probably one of the bigger challenges. But, yeah, that's for another day. So do you read, do you have any marketing books or anything like that any textbooks from your uni days, or do you buy any books in the area that you think are useful?
I'll be completely honest. I have never really read through textbooks unless I'm looking at a case study. I just haven't found it to be the way that I learn. I learn much better from talking to people and then doing a bit of my own research. Want to make sure that it's credible information and then going out and seeing it in the real world. So that's kind of the way that I process my information. But I haven't read like a paper book in so long. I keep buying ones that I intend to read and then I don't do it. I spend so much time on my phone. Someone taught me how to look at my screen time the other day, and I'm ashamed of myself. Yeah, I need to make that a goal to decrease my screen time and perhaps increase my paper reading time.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like a paper book. I don't think I could ever move to like a Kindle or anything like that. I tried to read a book on my iPhone. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I think it's because I spend so much time on a screen anyway.
Yeah.
Audiobooks sometimes.
Yeah, I want to get into them as well, but honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I have not had time.
Yeah.
I think, with uni, any reading that I was doing was for uni, and then I didn't really have any kind of passion or interest to do reading outside of that because I just felt so, trying to do my job and then uni and didn't really have that space. And then I only finished in November, so I've kind of just been enjoying catching up with friends and family for the first time in a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think winter will see me spend a bit more time at home and have a bit more time for reading and things like that, and just having a bit more introspection.
Yeah. If you don't have like a whole lot of time for like reading of academic journals and then screening out the ones that aren't great or the ones that are not very applied, would you find a concept of me interviewing an academic about their research and actually getting to the crust of it pretty quickly useful?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Could I probably do two versions of it? I got a couple lined up soon. So basically I'll do like a longer version. So I'll probably do like an hour about who they are and stuff like that. And then the recording will then move on to their paper and we'll go through their paper as a whole story, but I'll flag the parts that are useful more for academics and I'll flag the parts that are useful for people in industry, which is basically what does this all mean, which is the last part at the end of the paper. So I think that's, and I'll break it up, I think, into different clips. So you'll be able to listen to the whole episode or, this person talking
and
about
I did have a look at, or have a listen to some of your clips on Spotify. And I did like that you broke them up into themes. Cool. A lot more achievable to listen to 10 minutes.
Yeah, rather than a big 2-hour episode or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it actually helps people to figure out, well, am I interested in advice for younger marketers? Well, no, I'm 72, so I might skip this part. How do I get my first graduate entry role? Well, but this part about how do I measure media reach, that might be more interesting to me.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Cool. I reckon that's good to know. So keep stay tuned, everyone, because there'll be something in this space for sure. So I've realized I've taken up quite a lot of your time, actually.
That's okay. It's gone very quickly.
Yeah. So is there anything that I've missed that you've kind of wanted to talk about at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I really came in with any expectations on this. So
Yeah, because normally what I do is usually sort of end on a piece of advice, I suppose, from you. And actually, no, before we get on to that, what are your plans? Because I think it's really exciting because, you said you're only 25 and, we've all now seen just the level of growth that you've achieved in such a short amount of time. Where to from here? What is your plan? Are you looking to step up to become that marketing manager? Or if the team gets bigger in RAA, or, do you see yourself staying in marketing, or do you want to work further in different parts of the business? Like, I think the world's your oyster. I'm really interested to see where you plan on being. Say we had you back in 5 years' time. Who am I interviewing?
yeah, I'd like to think in 5 years' time I'd be a marketing manager. I had a really good opportunity last year when COVID hit to manage a couple of products. I had two managers at the time who were job sharing, and one of them got deployed to the market development team because they had the need for more people over there. And then my other manager still said there's 3 days. So there was an opportunity for me to step up. I've been in my role for 3 years, so I knew these products really well, and I got to manage a couple of smaller products, which was an awesome opportunity. And one, I hope that I get the opportunity to do another secondment or move into a more permanent role. So that's definitely on my career goals and something that I'm absolutely working towards. It's just waiting for something to come up because no one really leaves RAA.
Yeah, it seems like a great place to work.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, I guess I don't really want to shut myself off to opportunities. So while I can say now I want to be in a marketing manager position in 5 years, something better might come along. And I think that's how I've kind of moved so fluidly through careers, is that I've been open to opportunities and given things a shot. So yeah, I might be there, I might be somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to be open to those right opportunities, right time, right place. And you kind of were right time, right place in a lot of the things, like, right at the beginning of the podcast, you're like, I was organizing a hens party and bam, I had a job. And then I just happened to be on LinkedIn.
It's the power of talking to people. You just have to put yourself out there, and you never know who you're talking to. And
Exactly.
I'm just myself. I'm a bit of a dag. I'm not a cool person. I never have been, but I'm just me. And if people don't like that, that's fine. But I get along with people pretty well. And I think that a lot of marketing is PR and just having those people skills and being able to talk to people and just being real. I like people that are real.
Yeah. And you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
I think some people think they're very good at faking it. And it's pretty obvious I find it pretty obvious. And I tend to distance myself from those people. Yeah, so if you're in my life and I've distanced myself from you, I don't think you're a real person. Really put my foot
I agree. I think I have to credit a lot of my success to the amazing people that I've met along the way, whether it's at uni and I met my fiance at uni. So a lot of good things came out of uni for us. We were both in student associations. He was in law, I was in business, so naturally gravitated towards each other. But made amazing friends at uni, had a lot of really great support from my lecturers and student services team, and obviously my career, I've had some amazing people along the way there, but also my friends and family. Like they put up with me when I'm so busy and don't really have time for them, and they understand.
Yeah.
I might be a bit quiet for a while, but doesn't mean that they don't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a meme on the internet that just, like, you say things that just spark things in my memory. And I think it was like, it's like the evolution of friends. It's like, as you get older, you have fewer friends, but they're closer friends, and like you can go longer times without speaking to them without being offended. Like imagine not speaking to someone for a day in high school. Like you'd be like, we're worst enemies.
We're
like
not
I
friends
hate
anymore.
that person. Yeah. Now it's like I don't speak to my best friend sometimes for a few months, but then we catch up and it's just like, oh my God, how are things? And it's just like,
absolutely.
Yeah. And there's no like animosity or anything about it because, you know, he's married and he has a kid and works different hours to I do. And, you know, I'm working quite a lot as well. And so it's nice that, you know, you seem to find the same thing as well. And yeah, everything you've said, it's really kind of annoying, but nice in a way that everything you've said, I'm like, just triggers something in my head.
Yep.
Awesome. So yes, I am definitely taking up a lot of your time.
All good. Don't worry.
I think what might be a really good way to finish is I like to finish on trying to impart a little bit of life wisdom or life advice, or, you know, some people have mottos they live by, other people have like sayings they live by, which is kind of like a motto, or like a philosophy on life. You know, this is what gets me by. Did you want to leave us on something like that?
I think I've talked about all of those things throughout the podcast. I don't know if I could pick one. Yeah, I guess just be yourself. That would probably be the best one that I have. And just be authentic and talk to people and be human. Don't try and be someone that you're not.
Yeah.
Because you know, being open and real with people lets them be open and real with you and just helps develop relationships. And I think it leads to more success in the workplace, like having a more personal connection with people and not just knowing them as, you know, this is so and so from marketing, like, you know, knowing a bit more about them. And not, you don't have to be best friends, but I think it's just important to be human.
Be human.
Yeah.
That's so, I reckon
yourself.
that's so nice. I think it's so nice. And it really does. You're right. It ties into everything that you've spoken about and shared with us all tonight. So, yeah, I suppose on behalf of all of the listeners, all tens and hundreds of thousands of them, thank you so much.
Probably 20 of them will be from my team.
Hey, that's all good. It increases. So it's funnily enough, like there's a big listener base in France because I interviewed 2 French professors.
Yeah, no.
So it always works. So now there's going to be a big contingent on the west side of Adelaide.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
No worries.
Hey guys, it's Zac Anesbury here with just a couple of quick reminders. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, then make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. There are plenty more interviews to come with some of the world's leading marketing academics and practitioners. You do not want to miss these. In the meantime, if you're looking for another way to connect, then follow me on Twitter at Zac Anesbury. That is ZACANESBURY for my take on the marketing issues of the day.